What if I told you that the path to total control over your life was described almost 400 years ago? The legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi left behind not just a book, but a genuine code for hacking reality. His principles are not some beautiful philosophy, but a set of lethal tools for achieving your goals. This journey is guaranteed to have a profound impact on you. So get comfortable, but before you do, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Part 1. Where strategy begins. Strategy isn't what most folks think it is, not just generals directing armies or CEOs plotting company takeovers. Miyamoto Musashi uncovered a more basic truth. He believed that strategy is the warrior's craft, something leaders should execute and soldiers should understand. Yet his idea of a warrior stretches way past just being a soldier. Anyone striving to master their life and add value to the world is on a warrior's journey. Take a moment to think about your day-to-day life. Each morning, you're met with a sea of decisions, challenges, and opportunities. How do you figure out what's worth your focus and what's not? What do you do when unexpected problems pop up? How do you stay sharp when things quickly shift? All of these are tied to strategy, and your answers shape your life's direction. Musashi emphasized that life offers many paths. There's the Buddhist path of salvation. Confucius teaches governance and learning. Doctors find their way in healing. Poets inspire through verse. There's tea, archery, and an array of arts and skills. Everyone follows their own calling. But here's the key insight that sets Musashi's way apart. The warrior's way combines pen and sword, embracing both equally. So what's this mean practically? True mastery blends thought and action, study and practice, thinking and doing. Many fall into two pitfalls. They're either perpetual learners who read but never implement, or busy bees who lack reflection on their actions' effectiveness. Musashi realized that real success weaves both approaches together. Think like a philosopher, act like a warrior. But Musashi's grasp of strategy runs deeper. He said that strategy is aligned with nature's way. By recognizing nature's influence, understanding how situations ebb and flow, you can act with natural precision. It's not just about physical combat. It's about syncing with the core principles that guide successful actions. Look at how water moves down a mountain. It doesn't battle the rocks but finds the easiest paths. When faced with a drop, it jumps fearlessly. On flat ground it spreads slowly, nourishing all it touches. Water reaches the ocean not by force, but by leveraging natural laws. This reflects top-level strategic thinking. Now picture using this idea in business. Instead of forcing a tough solution, dig into the situation to comprehend its natural vibe. Spot where the energy flows, align your actions accordingly. Know when to push hard or when to step back and await better timing. Work with, not against, human nature. This embodies Musashi's notion of striking naturally. Musashi pointed out a key difference between the Ichi school and others. Many don't grasp the full meaning of strategy. Some strategists stick only to sword fencing, focusing narrowly on wielding the long sword and body movement. In today's context, this is like honing tactics without strategy, or perfecting skills while missing the big picture. People often become proficient at tasks that don't matter, excelling at skills irrelevant to their core goals, winning tiny battles while losing the overarching war. Musashi insists you continually look at the bigger picture by asking foundational questions. What am I truly trying to achieve? Does this move me towards my key goals or away from them? Am I engaged in the right fight at the right place and time? These queries distinguish true strategic thinkers from mere tactical doers. One of the most striking elements of Musashi's strategic thinking is his grasp of universality. He had this idea that if you truly understand one thing deeply, you can apply that knowledge to countless other things. In his view, mastering strategy leads to a clarity that allows you to perceive everything clearly. This isn't just some mystical mumbo-jumbo. It's genuinely practical advice. When you get to the heart of what makes success tick in one area, you can leverage that understanding across the board. For example, the qualities that define a top-notch swordsman, like timing, distance, rhythm, adaptability, preparation, focus and commitment, are the same ones that can drive a successful entrepreneur. The kind of mindset you need to win a duel can also help you come out on top in a business negotiation. We're talking about staying calm and alert, thinking strategically, understanding your rival, keeping your emotions in check, and making bold moves when the time's right. The kind of self-discipline required to become a martial arts expert can also push you to excel in art, science, relationships, or anything else you dive into. That's why digging into Musashi's philosophy isn't just about soaking up some old-school wisdom. It's about equipping yourself with skills that you can use no matter what you're up to. Musashi was adamant that strategy went beyond just sword fighting, suggesting a level of strategy that's all-encompassing, one that really gets to the heart of life. This higher strategy understands that every move we make has effects that spread out over time. Every choice strengthens or weakens your whole situation. Every relationship boosts or drags down your ability to hit your targets. Every habit either helps you move toward the person you want to be, or pulls you away from that vision. A strategic mindset links these dots where others might only see separate incidents. It anticipates ripple effects down the line instead of just reacting to what's right in front of them. It builds sustainable systems, whereas others might jump from one quick fix to another, inadvertently creating new headaches. This perspective is the bedrock of everything Musashi taught. Nail this foundation, and the rest starts to click into place. But if you miss it, even the fanciest techniques won't rescue you when you're in a pinch. Musashi famously said you need to really study, and when you've truly mastered strategy, there won't be anything you can't understand. This isn't just about what your eyes see. It's about using your entire being to sense the hidden patterns that shape success and failure in every area of life. Part 2. The foundation of the world. Building a rock-solid base. The earth symbolizes what is sturdy, dependable and essential. When Musashi talked about the Book of Earth, he was teaching us how to create a foundation so resilient that it can withstand anything. Think about the most accomplished individuals you know. What sets them apart isn't just luck or talent. It's the strength of their foundational principles. They've honed essential skills that underpin everything else they do. Their methods and mindset remain unwavering, no matter the situation. Here's where many go astray. They try to construct magnificent structures on flimsy bases. They go after complex techniques without first mastering the basics. They focus too much on results, rather than the steps to get there. They aim to look successful, instead of becoming truly capable. Musashi knew this path leads to failure in the long run. In the Earth Book, Musashi instructed his Ichi school students to grasp the smallest and largest, the shallowest and deepest, as if following a clear road laid out before them. This means developing the skill to notice patterns and connections others overlook. It's about relating details to the larger picture and seeing how first impressions hint at deeper truths. Let me illustrate this with a practical example. Most people begin learning something new by diving straight into the flashy, advanced techniques. They want to skip over the seemingly dull basics and leap to the exciting stuff. However, Musashi would dedicate months or even years to get basic moves down perfectly until they became second nature. He knew advanced skills are merely basic moves combined with impeccable timing and accuracy. If your basics are shaky, your advanced skills will never be stable. This principle applies broadly in life. To build a thriving business, you must first get the fundamentals right. Knowing your customers, creating value, managing resources, and executing consistently. To forge meaningful relationships, you must master the art of listening, empathy, effective communication, and being dependable. To achieve anything noteworthy, you have to cultivate the character traits and habits that make success inevitable. The Earth Book also teaches the value of understanding your tools and surroundings. Musashi invested tremendous time studying the nature of different weapons, how various landscapes affect strategies, and the pros and cons of different stances. He knew mastery requires a deep understanding of what you work with. You can't be effective without it. In today's language, this means deeply understanding the tools and environments crucial to your goals. If you're starting a business, you need to clearly grasp your market, your customers, your competition, your resources, and any limitations. If you're developing a skill, you need to understand its foundational principles, common errors, and the best ways to improve. Superficial knowledge will always fall short when tough challenges arise. But the Earth Book isn't just about technical know-how. It emphasizes developing the right mindset and approach to learning. Musashi stressed the importance of studying hard, but knew that effective learning requires the right methods and attitude. Random actions don't equal focused practice. Simply reading about something isn't the same as understanding it enough to apply it under pressure. Having facts isn't the same as gaining wisdom. The Earth Foundation demands what Musashi called seeing truly. This involves peering beyond the surface to grasp deeper truths, challenging assumptions, and testing beliefs with real-world results. It's about being honest about your current skills instead of pretending to be more advanced than you are. Most people live in a haze of self-deception because reality can be uncomfortable, but you can't build anything lasting on a foundation of delusions. Think about how this applies to personal growth. Many want to transform their lives, but shy away from honestly evaluating where they are now. People often set goals based on where they hope to be instead of where they really are. They go after strategies that sound good instead of those that actually fit their current situation and abilities. They want to change things without facing the uncomfortable truth of what needs changing. This mindset is a surefire way to fail because it skips the crucial step of building on a solid base. The Earth Book teaches us that real strength comes from fully accepting reality and then building systematically from there. It takes patience, because the foundational work isn't flashy and usually goes unnoticed. It takes discipline, since focusing on the basics can seem dull when compared to more advanced stuff. It takes humility to admit what you don't know and start fresh. But it gives you something shortcuts can't: the unshakable confidence that comes from the true skill. When your foundation is strong, you're ready to handle any situation, because you get the principles beneath it all. When your basics are solid, you're free to improvise since you have a stable ground to fall back on. When your knowledge goes deep instead of just being wide, you spot connections and possibilities that escape those with only a surface understanding. That's what Musashi meant when he said, from one thing, you understand 1,000 others. The Earth Book also highlights the need to build your foundation in the correct order. Musashi knew some skills must be developed before others can be useful. You can't grasp advanced strategies without first mastering basic skills. You can't get the hang of intuitive timing without having learned to execute things deliberately first. You must fully internalize rules before you can go beyond them. Skipping steps in this order leads to confusion and failure in the end. This sequential path demands a lot of patience in a world that promises quick results. But Musashi recognized that anything truly valuable takes time to build right. The foundation of Earth isn't something you just set and forget. It needs constant care and refinement throughout your journey. Even at the peak of mastery, you must revisit the basics regularly to keep them sharp. The Earth supports everything else, so it deserves the utmost attention. Part 3. Water is the most powerful force in nature, yet it comes across as soft and yielding. Think about how, over time, water shapes the Grand Canyon but never directly takes on the rock. It just glides around obstacles, chooses the path of least resistance, and eventually hits its target no matter what stands in the way. When Musashi penned the Water Book, his goal was to show us how to harness that same kind of adaptable power in our lives. Most folks tackle challenges like a hammer, going straight for a nail. They believe applying direct force will overpower any resistance, and when that doesn't work, they just try to hit harder. When more force isn't the answer, they either give up or burn out wrestling pointlessly with the issue. Musashi realized this head-on approach only works in a few situations. Real mastery? It's about adjusting your strategy to fit the unique nature of each challenge. Within his Water Book, Musashi breaks down his groundbreaking fighting style, Niten Ichi Ryu, which translates to 2 heavens as one. Instead of gripping a single sword with both hands like everyone else at the time, he wielded a long sword in one hand and a short sword in the other. This gave him more options. He could attack and defend at the same time, adapt to tight spaces or vast open areas. He had the flexibility to face different foes using different technique combos. But in truth, the lesson isn't really about swords. It's about creating a set of varied skills that can join together in adaptable ways. Today that means building a toolbox filled with diverse skills, methods and viewpoints you can mix and tweak as needed. Rather than being pigeonholed into one area, strengthen abilities that complement each other. Consider the most successful entrepreneurs. They don't make it by being the absolute best at just one thing. No, they're very good at several interconnected things that work in harmony. You find them understanding a little technology, a bit of business, psychology, communication. They think strategically, but can also roll up their sleeves and get tactical. They can lead and follow, dream big and keep things grounded. This blend of complementary skills helps them rise to any challenge. Musashi's Water Book shows us that adapting is about finding balance while constantly changing. He said a spirit in perfect balance leads to physical stability too. This presence doesn't show vulnerabilities to the enemy. Stay focused and calm, whatever happens around you. But balance isn't about being still. Just as water keeps its essence, but fills any shaped container, you should keep true to your core principles and values, while shifting your methods to suit different scenarios. Your character should be steady, whereas your strategies can evolve. Your core commitments remain sturdy, but your tactics morph. This is the effective way to adapt. Take leadership, for instance. Great leaders hold steady values and visions, while adjusting how they communicate with different groups. They stick to their principles but are open to diverse methods. They provide a sense of stability through their character, while fostering innovation within their teams. Tough when the situation demands it, gentle when kindness is the key. This isn't inconsistency, it's adaptive mastery. Musashi's book also covers the role of timing and rhythm. Look at how water never flows at a constant speed. It rushes down steep slopes and meanders across flat land. It pools in low spots, spills over high ones. It follows the landscape while keeping on course. This tells us effective action comes from matching our tempo and intensity to the needs of the situation. Most folks either move too fast or too slow for what's happening. They push for quick progress when patience would serve them better, or hold back when they need to take action quickly. Instead, we should tailor our energy to align with what each situation actually requires. Figuring out the right pace for every situation is a super handy skill to have. The Water Book gives a cool lesson that real strength comes from understanding forces and going with them, not fighting against them. Think about when water hits a rock. It doesn't just try to shove it out of the way. Instead, it flows around it and bit by bit wears it down. Over time, this rock becomes smooth and rounded from the water's steady patience. This shows an amazing idea. True change happens gradually. If you face things head on, you might just stir up resistance. But if you use indirect influence and go with the flow, you're often more successful in the long haul. This is true for changing businesses, influencing people, or even working on yourself. Water also has a lesson about sticking with it without getting too attached. Water's always making its way to the ocean, but it's not fussy about which path it takes to get there. If one route is blocked, it finds another way. Can't go around something? It'll go over or under it. If all else fails, it just sits and waits for things to shift. But it never veers off course from its ultimate target. This might just be the biggest takeaway from the Water Book. Stay laser focused on your main goals, while being totally open to switching strategies. Be ready to change direction, try out fresh approaches, and roll with temporary defeats, as long as you don't lose sight of where you're headed. This mix of sticking with it strategically and being flexible on the fly is what lets water reshape landscapes and people achieve what's thought to be impossible. Plus, the Water Book reminds us of the need to keep things moving in our everyday lives. When water's motionless, it turns stagnant and unhealthy. Just like that, if we stop growing, learning, and shifting, we start to fall apart. Staying in the flow means you're always challenging yourself, soaking up new ideas and chasing new opportunities. It's about being ready to leave your comfort zone when it stops helping you grow. It means picking temporary discomfort rather than settling into a rut forever. Part 4. When the crucial moment hits, everything flips. All those hours spent preparing, all those strategic plans, and the careful plotting suddenly bow down to the raw, blazing intensity of facing the challenge head-on. The Fire Book is all about those pivotal instances where everything you've got rides on the line. Whether you're sealing a big deal, handling a high-pressure gig, tackling a crisis, or chasing a golden opportunity, there comes a time when you have to jump into the heat and prove your mettle. Most folks shine when things are comfy and predictable. They're like clockwork when there's no pressure, no high stakes. But crank up the heat, shorten the timeline and make the outcome truly matter, and that's when many stumble. Their polished skills seem to vanish, their sharp focus blurs, and their solid prep turns into a jittery pause. Musashi saw this gap between acing practice and nailing it under pressure as the line that divides true masters from mere players. The Fire Book is all about closing that gap. It zooms in on timing and the beauty of direct real-time engagement. Musashi pointed out that timing is critical in everything from music and dance to military moves, archery, and horseback riding. Timing runs through all skills, but in combat, it demands a razor-sharp edge that peaceful practice just doesn't require. When it's a do-or-die scenario, even a minor misstep in timing can tip the scales between winning and losing. Think of timing in crucial business talks. There's that exact moment when the other party is primed to commit. Miss it, and the chance might disappear for good. Knowing when to press harder, when to ease off, when to make compromises and when to hold your ground. Capturing these moments takes not just experience, but an intense focus on the now. You can't lean on canned scripts because every situation unfolds in its own way. The Fire Book drills in. That handling stress with finesse comes from tapping into a certain mental space. Musashi wrote that in battle or any daily scenario, be firm but calm. Face things without strain yet not recklessly. Have a settled spirit but remain impartial, even when calm inside. Don't let your body slack, and when relaxed in body, keep your spirit sharp. This speaks to a state of relaxed intensity that's perfect for being most effective under stress. You're fully alert and ready to act in a heartbeat, but there's no tension or anxiety. When the heat's on, most people end up either too stiff or too slack. Too stiff, and they can't pivot with the flow. Their moves become rigid, their thinking narrow. Too slack, and they miss acting decisively when needed. Their reactions are all over the place, their focus scattered. The Fire Book shows the sweet spot between being loose and ready, calm yet driven. One key lesson is about reading the rhythm of any engagement. Every face-off, whether it's a physical brawl, a mental duel, or an emotional standoff, has its own rhythm. There are times to drive your advantage home and times to pull back and think. There's a phase for all-out action and another for waiting it out. Mastering this rhythm and syncing your actions with it gives you a huge edge over opponents who try to impose their timing on every situation. This is what Musashi meant by hitting the opponent naturally, landing strikes with instinct. The Fire Book also hammers home the value of keeping strategic clarity, even amid the battle's roar. When under pressure, most folks lose sight of their big goals, getting trapped in sheer survival mode. They make snap decisions that backfire long-term, securing quick wins which lead to bigger losses. Musashi grasped that true brilliance means juggling immediate tactics with overarching strategy. You've got to stay deeply in the moment while never losing sight of your ultimate direction. It's tough to keep your cool and stay aware when things get intense. You need loads of practice, slowly getting used to tougher situations. Just sticking to comfy situations won't cut it. You've got to keep pushing yourself to handle even more pressure while staying clear-headed and effective, no matter what's happening around you. This is why Musashi didn't just mess around with wooden swords, he went for real duels. He got that you can't fake that kind of pressure, you've got to live it. The Fire book lays it out. To handle pressure well, you need to go all in without clinging to the results. Once you're in the thick of it, you've got to throw everything you've got at the task. If you hold back or second guess yourself, there's a good chance you'll bomb when it counts. But here's the catch. Don't get too hung up on the outcome. Over-focusing on how things end can make you act out of desperation, which messes things up. Finding this balance between giving it your all and not getting too obsessed with results is really what makes handling pressure so tricky. Think about it when you're working on something creative and there's a tight deadline. You've got to jump in fully, aiming to do your best within the time you're given. You can't pull your punches or wait for inspiration to strike, but you also can't be so worried about getting it perfect that you freeze or miss the deadline. So you give it your all and come to terms with the fact that the outcome will be what it will be given the circumstances. This approach lets you do your best while staying flexible enough to roll with whatever comes up. The Fire book also talks about making strong decisions once you've chosen a path. Musashi pointed out that hesitating when it's go time can be a killer. When you've made up your mind to act, you've got to dive in fully and immediately. Half-hearted attempts can lead to half-baked results, sometimes even causing more problems than not acting at all. But this isn't about being reckless. Before you spring into action, think it through. But once you've decided, commit entirely and don't look back. Ultimately, the Fire book teaches that being a master under pressure means turning challenges into opportunities. Instead of seeing high-pressure situations as things to just survive, true pros see them as chances to show what they've got and level up. They embrace pressure because it brings out parts of their skills that aren't tested in easy conditions. Shifting your mindset from feeling threatened to seeing an opportunity changes everything about how you prep for and tackle tough situations. Part 5. The Win book. When you're riding high on success, it's easy to think you've got it all figured out. But that's where it all starts going downhill. Musashi, in his Win book, was giving us a heads up that goes against what we naturally want to do. Stick to what we know. Instead, he's saying you've got to dive into other styles, methods and beliefs, not just to mimic them, but to really get what's good, what's bad, and why. Doing this makes your own style better, and helps you not fall into the trap of thinking yours is the only way, because you've mastered one thing but ignored everything else. The Win book isn't so much about Musashi's Ichi school of thought. It's more about all the other schools of strategy out there. When he talked about wind, he was referring to those long-standing traditions, what's popular now, and even family customs. He wanted people to realize that you can't truly understand yourself if you don't understand others. And this idea stretches far beyond just martial arts. It goes for building a business, picking up a new skill, or mastering any complex field. You can't truly claim mastery without looking at alternatives. People usually check out the competition just to find flaws to exploit or blunders to dodge. Musashi, though, had a different approach. He genuinely wanted to dig deep into the principles behind other schools of strategies, figuring out what they assumed and the context they worked in, and why those might sometimes work better than his own. To do this, you've got to be open-minded and genuinely curious, not just out to one-up others. Think about it from a business angle. Companies usually eye their competitors just to outsmart them in the market, focusing on things like prices, features, and marketing. But the really successful ones are the ones who understand their competition to see how they meet customer needs differently. They ask themselves questions like, are they filling a customer need that we're missing? Or do they see the market more clearly than we do? It's this kind of thinking that sparks innovation, not just copying the competition. The Win book teaches us that looking at different methods gives you a fresh perspective on your own approach's boundaries and context. Every way of doing something has its moments of glory and its pitfalls. When you only stick to one method, you end up using it everywhere, even when it's not the right fit. But when you've seen other ways, you know when to use which method, tailoring it to the situation. It's like being a handyman with all the tools you need, rather than just having a hammer for every job. Studying alternatives also shows you something crucial: the core principles behind all successful methods. After exploring enough approaches to the same problem, you start seeing patterns. You'll find that different methods, despite seeming different, often share some fundamental truths, and recognizing those patterns helps you pull out principles that you can apply in new, uncharted situations. The Wind Book talks about the danger of becoming too attached to a particular method or tradition. Musashi pointed out that all paths have side roads. If you're following a path and drift even a little, you might think you're on the right track, but in reality, you're not. And if you blindly follow even good methods without really understanding them, they can go stale or lose relevance. Think about your career development. So many people learn certain skills early on and then call it a day, never really updating their knowledge or staying current. You know what's interesting? People get so comfy with their way of doing things that they don't notice when the world moves on, sticking with old tricks until they don't work anymore. They're just blind to fresh ideas because they've stopped looking out for them. They think they're experts because they know their own style inside and out, but they miss the bigger picture. The Wind Book has this cool lesson about really being on top of your game. It's all about checking out what others are doing with similar problems, and it's not just about watching what these other schools or approaches do, but understanding their reasons behind it. It's like copying what someone else does without getting why they do it rarely hits the nail on the head. If you just copy someone's moves without grasping the big ideas behind them, you'll likely mess up or use it wrong. But when you get what's really going on underneath, you can tweak it to work for you and your situation. That's where the magic happens, turning imitation into true innovation, because you know the core ideas well enough to create something fresh. Think about leadership growth. Loads of folks try to mimic successful leaders they look up to. They notice how these leaders talk, make choices or organize their teams. But when they simply mimic these visible actions, they usually end up disappointed. That's because those actions are just reflections of deeper critical ideas, suited to specific situations. Real leadership growth is about learning the underlying principles that make leadership tick, not just parroting what these leaders do. The Wind Book teaches us that looking into different methods should actually boost your confidence in your own strategy, not weaken it. When you know why you stick with your methods after exploring other options, you're in it for good reasons, not just out of habit. This solid understanding makes you way more adaptable and strong than just following rules for the sake of it. Plus, the Wind Book gives a heads up on a typical blunder, judging others by your standards. Doing that is a surefire way to get things wrong. Each approach has its own way of making sense and their own goals. Really getting to know another way means you have to see things from their angle and judge it by their rules. That's how you start making smart comparisons and gain valuable insights. This involves stretching your mind to understand things from different viewpoints at the same time. Part 6. The Void. Beyond technique and knowledge. There's a point on every journey to mastery where your brain can hit the pause button on all those techniques you've painstakingly practiced. Everything you've learned, all your plans, start to matter less compared to something deeper within you. When Musashi penned the Void Book, he aimed at the ultimate finish line of all learning. It's that sweet spot where you don't have to rack your brain about what to do next, because you've become one with the fundamental principles that drive all effective actions. It's not mystical mumbo-jumbo. It's a real thing that true masters bump into along their way. The void isn't about blanking out in some kind of spiritual vacuum. It means going beyond the limits of conscious thought and being able to handle whatever gets thrown at you with ease. People usually get the wrong idea about the void. They think it's about floating off into some spiritual realm that has nothing to do with getting stuff done. But Musashi was all about practicality. He was a guy whose lessons were proven in life or death scenarios. When he talked about the void, he was getting at a genuine state of awareness that shoots your performance through the roof in any field. It's a space where what you know turns into wisdom, where your techniques naturally flow out of you, and thinking morphs into intuitive understanding. The void happens when you've soaked up the principles so deep that you just act without second guessing. The actions come naturally and are just right for whatever's happening. You engage with a deeper intelligence that spots patterns and ideas that your conscious mind can't keep up with fast enough. That's why, when you ask masters how they do what they do, they often can't put it into words. They've cruised past just knowing techniques and have entered a world where wisdom is part of their being. Their wisdom isn't something they have to think about, it's just who they are. Consider a musician who's improvising on stage. They're not counting scales or clashing over chord charts. They've got that stuff down so pat it runs like clockwork. Their mind is free to explore other things, like expressing emotion, syncing with their bandmates, and reacting to the audience. They're bold enough to venture into musical unknowns because their foundation is rock solid. Basic skills are a given. That's the tangible side of the void in action. The void integrates all the skills learned from the previous phases. Earth gives you rock-steady knowledge and skill set. Water lets you bend, move and flow. Fire sharpens your edge, getting you to perform when the heat is on. Wind lets you see the bigger picture and weigh your options. In the void, it all comes together into effortless mastery. But you can't just jump straight to the void. It takes a dedicated trek through each stage, one by one. Musashi mentioned that within the void, there's virtue and no wrongdoing. Wisdom exists, principles exist, the path is there, and the spirit is like nothing. It's describing a place where your actions are naturally in tune with what's right and effective. Gone are the constant battles about what you want to do versus what you ought to do. Your desires and your moral compass have synced up. When all those internal conflicts disappear, they stop sucking up your energy. It's all redirected into meaningful action. The void also lets you ditch worrying about what others think. When you're living in the void, your confidence and direction come from within, rather than whether the world approves or not. You're not immune to criticism or praise. You just don't let it decide everything for you. You're still open to what's happening around you, learning as you stay true to yourself. Most importantly, the void embodies Musashi's idea of knowing that which does not exist by knowing things that exist. It speaks to seeing potential in futures that aren't visible yet. When you really grasp the core ideas behind something, you start seeing their potential in scenarios you've never come across before. You get ahead of the curve, noticing changes before anyone else does, spotting chances and dangers that haven't yet materialized. This kind of insight gives you a huge edge, whether you're in a competitive field or doing something creative. Take entrepreneurship, for instance. Top entrepreneurs often seem to have this amazing knack for finding opportunities that everyone else overlooks. They're able to recognize market demands before it becomes clear there is one, anticipate where tech is heading before it grabs everyone's attention, and know the perfect moment for ideas that seemed too early just a while back. This is not just luck or some mysterious gut feeling. It's about understanding the underlying principles so profoundly that they can project from current trends to what might be around the corner. Similarly, there's what Musashi referred to as natural striking, a concept tied to the void state. It means acting with perfect timing and the right amount of force without overthinking. You react naturally to what's happening because your understanding runs deep, not because you're following a script or reacting emotionally. This way of living lets you be both adaptable and consistent, unlike those who are stuck in their heads. You're quick to respond to changes while still sticking to your core values, and that's the peak of strategic growth. But how does one cultivate the void state? It's not something you can force or rush. It comes about from years of dedicated practice, reflection, and improvement. You need to fully master each level before moving on, willing to leave behind techniques and methods that once helped, but now hold you back. Most importantly, you have to keep what's known in Zen as a beginner's mind, even as you become more skilled. The void state demands what Musashi called having no mind or no preferences. That doesn't mean you lack opinions or principles, rather that you aren't fixated on specific results or ways of doing things. You can pursue your goals without being tied to achieving them exactly as you first imagined. You're able to use techniques freely and uphold strong values without being inflexible about their application. This kind of openness lets you react appropriately to whatever comes up instead of trying to fit reality into your expectations. True freedom lies here, and it's the ultimate reward of real learning. Part 7. 5 days before he passed away, Miyamoto Musashi sensed that his end was near. His body, battered from years of battles and a tough life as a wandering samurai, was finally surrendering. Yet his mind stayed as sharp as ever. Sitting in his cave sanctuary, he picked up his brush one last time, to create what would become his most intimate and profound piece of writing. The Dokodo, or the Path of Aloneness, wasn't meant for his students or future generations. It was his way of condensing a lifetime of valuable insights into 21 principles for anyone aiming to live a life of honor and purpose. Unlike his famous Book of 5 Rings, which dealt with strategy and technique, the Dokodo tackled something much more basic: how to be as a person. It explored how to keep your integrity when everything around you seems dishonest, how to find purpose when the structures you relied on fail, and how to live deeply even when you walk your path alone. These 21 guidelines summed up everything Musashi had learned, not just about combat and tactics, but about life itself. The term Ronin means wave man, someone adrift without a master. During Musashi's era, this was viewed as disgraceful. A true samurai was expected to commit ritual suicide following their lord's death in an act of ultimate loyalty. Those who chose to live were stripped of their ranks and became wanderers. Musashi lived much of his adult life as a Ronin, creating his own moral code and finding personal fulfillment without any institutional support. This unique journey taught him things that those with traditional success could never understand. Musashi realized something significant about choosing the path of solitude. Without the support of external structures for guidance, one is compelled to develop internal strengths that are more reliable. Stripped of titles and ranks, you must build genuine skills and character. Without relying on others for approval, you learn to trust your own intuition. And without clear paths laid out, you learn to steer using principles instead of rules. Although challenging, the path of aloneness offers a kind of freedom and authenticity that many never experience. The Dokodo isn't a philosophical treatise in the academic sense. Each of its principles was honed through real experiences. Musashi didn't come up with these ideas in comfort or safety. He lived them through years of trials, uncertainty and danger. These guidelines ensured his survival in the times of peril, kept him sane during lonely days, and pushed him to grow when it would have been easier to stand still. This grounding in real-life experiences gives the Dokodo a weight and credibility that purely theoretical works lack. Today the teachings of the Dokodo are more relevant than ever, as modern life mirrors the Ronin experience. Traditional structures like religion, community and family offer less support and guidance than they used to. Career paths aren't as predictable, and job security is never guaranteed. People are often left to find their own meaning and direction without clear examples or support systems. In many ways, we're all like Ronin today, having to navigate an uncertain world relying only on ourselves. Musashi's hard-earned insights on thriving under such conditions have never been more crucial. But following the path of aloneness doesn't mean being isolated. Musashi had students, friends, and meaningful relationships. It's about owning your development, decisions, and outcomes entirely. It involves not relying on others for your purpose, drive, or self-esteem. It's about being strong enough to stand alone when needed while staying open to forming connections. Moreover, it means cultivating such inner strength and clarity that you can share with others from a place of generosity rather than need. The 21 precepts of the Dokodo touch on every facet of living this way. They guide how to deal with pleasure and pain, success and failure, others and yourself. They show how to maintain your inner balance, even when everything around you is constantly changing. They guide you on how to live with purpose and integrity, even when nobody's watching or giving you a pat on the back. It's like a complete set of rules for living on your own terms, without needing outside approval or help. But there's a catch. Most folks aren't keen on what you need to do. Sticking to these rules means you have to be brutally honest about yourself and your situation. It calls for taking ownership of your choices and their fallout, without pointing fingers or coming up with excuses. It's about building discipline and self-control, all on your own. You need to dig deep for meaning and motivation, rather than relying on others to give it to you. Most would rather lean on outside systems, even if they hold them back, because true independence takes a lot of effort and responsibility. Going it alone isn't for everyone, but it's an option for those who are ready to pay the price. Each of the 21 precepts connects with the others, forming a full method for living independently. They aren't just random bits of advice, but parts of a well-thought-out system. As a whole, they tackle common causes of struggle and ineffectiveness that keep people from reaching their potential. They offer real-world solutions to universal human issues, like coping with loss, managing desires, dealing with criticism, and staying motivated over the long haul. They show you how to turn obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into steps forward. They teach you to find value in every experience, even the tough ones. But maybe the most crucial lesson from the Reigando is how to live without regrets. By consistently following these principles, you'll know you're doing your best in whatever situation you find yourself. You're not wasting your time on things that don't really matter. You're not making choices out of fear, greed, or ego that you'll later want to take back. You're crafting a life that mirrors your core values and highest goals. This creates a peace and fulfillment that no outside success can ever replace. Part 8. The first pillar, embracing reality without struggle. The first guiding principle of the Reigando takes a different path from most self-help wisdom and boils everything down to these 4 words. Accept everything exactly as it is. This doesn't mean you're surrendering or letting go of your aspirations. It's actually the groundwork for taking action that really works and where true insight begins. You can't tackle life effectively unless you see it for what it is, without the haze of unrealistic thinking or denial. A lot of human misery isn't about reality itself, but about our resistance to it. We burn through loads of energy trying to push against things that are set and cannot change, instead of directing that energy towards what we can alter. Think about it. How often do you find yourself wishing your past was different, kicking yourself over decisions you made or didn't make, dwelling on unfortunate events, or dreaming about how rosy life could be if things had gone another way? All this mental chatter is pointless. The past is carved in stone, it's done, sealed, unchangeable. No amount of wishing or regret will shift it even a tiny bit. But this pushback against what's done drains your energy that could pave the way for a better tomorrow. This logic carries over to your present situation as well. You might not be thrilled with your financial state, health issues, family dynamics, or job outlook, yet here you are, and these are the cards you have to play with. Wasting energy on gripes or indulging in daydreams about how things should be keeps you blind to the real opportunities tucked within your current reality. Acceptance doesn't mean you must love your circumstances. It means you stop investing energy in battling what's real, and you start channeling that energy into leveraging what exists. Musashi picked up this truth through harsh life lessons. As a ronin, he was always dealing with uncertainty, scorn from society, and threats to his life. He could have brooded over his lot or railed against its unfairness. Instead, he fully grasped and accepted what was and poured all his energy into honing his skills within his present conditions. This acceptance let him turn every experience, even tough ones, into something valuable. It released him from the emotional chaos that grips those who refuse to embrace their reality. But accepting things as they are isn't as easy as it sounds. Our minds love spinning tales about how things ought to be, rather than confronting how things truly are. We build expectations based on what's happened before, cultural norms or our personal likes. When reality deviates from these expectations, we feel let down, upset or angry. Those feelings seem justified because our expectations seem fair, but really, it's not about your expectations lacking reason. The hitch is that reality doesn't cater to your expectations. It follows its own rules. Look at how this plays out in relationships. You might have a blueprint in mind for how people should act. Maybe you think kindness will always be reciprocated, or hard work will earn you rightful recognition and reward. These expectations aren't outlandish, but they're not promises. Other people have their own plans, limits and life situations shaping their actions. When your inner peace hangs on others acting in line with your beliefs, you hand over the reins to your emotional well-being. Acceptance involves realizing that people act according to their own natures and circumstances, not necessarily what you'd like. This doesn't mean you become a doormat or stop trying to sway others. It means you engage with them as they are, not as you wish they were. Recognizing someone's current abilities, drive, or knowledge helps you communicate better. Acknowledging their limitations lets you find ways to work around or make up for them. Leveraging their strengths enables you to reach shared goals. This sort of acceptance not only enhances your influence, but actually increases it, because you're interacting with reality instead of resisting it. Think of accepting yourself as using what you've got, even if you aren't thrilled with certain parts of your personality, skills or past. Instead of wishing you were someone else, take an honest look at who you are and consider how you can grow into who you want to be. Self-acceptance isn't about giving yourself a free pass or making excuses for where you fall short. It's about straight up recognizing your current state so you can take meaningful action. Without acknowledging reality, you can't improve. Acknowledge that change isn't instant and comes in phases. You won't transform overnight or skip growth steps. Trying to rush things will only leave you frustrated when progress feels slow. Accepting this natural pace helps you stay consistent, because you're not constantly let down by unrealistic goals. Being patient is a hugely valuable skill, and maybe the most significant part of acceptance is realizing you don't have to control everything. You can't dictate what others do, predict the market, prevent natural disasters, or determine every outcome. Your control lies in your own choices, efforts, and responses. Realizing this stops you from wasting energy on trying to manage what's out of your hands and redirects that effort toward what you can change. This shift is a game changer, taking you from feeling powerless to feeling empowered. Acceptance isn't something you decide once, it's a daily habit. Each day serves up new situations that test your clarity and adaptability. Every day gives you another shot at working with reality, not against it. The more you embrace acceptance, the more naturally it comes to you. Eventually, it becomes your go-to way of dealing with life. This builds a core of inner peace and practical efficiency that external stuff can't mess with. Part 9. Purpose over pleasure. Forget chasing after all those quick thrills. This second principle cuts to the core of what really messes up people's chances to be truly great. Nowadays, we're surrounded by stuff designed to make us feel good instantly. Think of food that's delicious now, but bad for your health later, or those shows that hook you for an hour but don't fulfill you deeply. Shopping might give you a rush, but later, you're left with, did I really need this? Then there's social media, where getting likes is addictive, but chips away at your focus and self-esteem. The world today is set up to keep us going round in circles, always reaching for those quick joys that stop us from achieving any lasting success. Musashi got it, something we've kind of forgotten. Real joy doesn't come from just doing what feels good right now. It's about growing into that person you want to become. See, pleasure shouldn't be the main aim. It's like a bonus that comes from doing meaningful stuff. Center your life on chasing happiness and you end up feeling empty, needy, and pretty darn miserable. But if you gear your life towards improving yourself and adding value to the world, that's when joy naturally follows your hard work. And believe me, this joy is much richer and sticks around longer than any quick fix you chase after. Think about stuffing your face with junk food versus staying in killer shape. That junk food gives you a quick kick but leaves you feeling lousy later. Staying fit? It needs you to grit your teeth and wait for the good stuff, but it keeps paying back by making you feel great and boosting your whole life. You can put this idea to use anywhere. Dodging tough tasks might feel good for a minute, but developing the grit to handle them builds a satisfaction that runs deep and stays. This doesn't mean you should live like a monk, getting no joy from life. Musashi found beauty in art, poetry, and nature. It's about not letting pleasure be your main drive or final destination. His art sharpened his mind. His poetry helped him figure things out, and being in nature taught him about natural rules he could use in his strategies in life. There's a trap in making pleasure your ultimate goal. You'll need more intense experiences just to feel the same level of satisfaction. That starts you down a road to addiction, craving hits from outside sources, and you end up needing bigger and bigger highs. Purpose, though, that's like a never-ending mountain climb. Improve a skill, and you just keep getting better. Help others and you become more valuable. Smash through challenges and your confidence skyrockets. You build on success, bit after bit, leading to more meaningful wins. This satisfaction just grows deeper and stronger, lifting you into something bigger than yourself. It pulls you away from being stuck in the just thinking about yourself. Building a life driven by purpose, that takes time and patience. Real wins take ages to bloom. You've got to hang in there, knowing your efforts will eventually bear fruit, even if it's slow going at times. This is a whole different game from chasing pleasure, which tells you right away if you're having fun. You've got to learn to love the daily grind itself, not just the end results. Think about picking up a new skill. Getting good at anything worthwhile takes hours and hours of practice, most of which isn't all that fun. Mastering a skill is all about doing the same things repeatedly, fixing mistakes, and gradually getting better, which can sometimes feel like a long and dull process. If you're focused on getting instant gratification, you're likely to give up before you become good at something. However, if you can find meaning in the learning journey itself and value the small steps forward that come with constant practice, you'll stay motivated long enough to truly excel. This level of expertise delivers a deep sense of fulfillment that short-lived pleasures just can't compete with. It's about connecting with something timeless and significant, rather than something fleeting and trivial. The next principle, never rely solely on immediate feelings, is built on this idea. Immediate feelings are emotional responses triggered by what's happening right now rather than a deeper comprehension. For instance, when you're angry, all you can see are things that anger you. When you're excited, everything seems thrilling. When you're scared, everything appears threatening. These limited viewpoints can lead to decisions that seem correct temporarily, but cause issues down the line. Musashi knew that while emotions provide useful insights, they shouldn't dictate your choices. Fear can alert you to danger, yet it might also keep you from taking necessary risks. Anger can push you to tackle wrongdoing, but it might also lead you to say or do things you'll wish you hadn't. Love can encourage you to care for others, but it might also result in choices that aren't truly beneficial for anyone. The trick is to recognize your feelings without letting them take over. Treat them as data points, and make choices based on deeper principles and a long-term perspective. This requires developing what Musashi referred to as a settled spirit, which is a calm core that stays steady no matter what's happening around you or what you're feeling inside. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It means having the ability to fully experience your emotions while still thinking clearly and acting sensibly. This kind of emotional control is crucial for anyone aiming to accomplish something meaningful. Without it, you'll find yourself constantly swayed off course by every emotional breeze. Part 10. The ideas of perspective and detachment. The guideline here is to take yourself lightly and think deeply about the world. This is probably the most transformative shift in viewpoint one can adopt. Most folks spend their lives worrying intensely about themselves and brushing off everything else. They're wrapped up in their own issues, wants, fears, reputation, and comfort. It's as if the vast tapestry of existence is just a backdrop to their personal saga. This self-obsessed viewpoint isn't just a source of constant misery. It stops them from gaining the wisdom and skills needed to handle their problems effectively. When Musashi suggests thinking lightly of oneself, he's not implying you should undervalue yourself or put yourself down. He means don't take yourself so seriously that you lose sight of what's around you. Your issues, though real and important, aren't the center of the universe. Your preferences are personal, not universal truths. Your current situation matters, but it's temporary and changeable. This lighter self-view lifts the heavy load of self-importance, which often makes things tougher than they need to be. Often, people complicate their problems by pulling on mental drama. Instead of just facing a challenge, they add anxiety, worry about others' opinions, anger over the unfairness, and fear about handling it. The initial issue might be manageable, but all that added mental baggage makes it seem insurmountable. To think lightly of yourself is to deal with the reality of a situation, not the narrative you construct around it. On the flip side, thinking deeply about the world goes beyond keeping up with current events. It's about genuine curiosity about how things truly work. How do people actually make choices? How do organizations genuinely operate? How do markets function? How does real change occur? How do natural systems sustain themselves? Many people have shallow views on these subjects but rarely dive deep enough to truly understand them. This deep comprehension is the key to working effectively with reality. It lays the groundwork for successful action in any area. Think about how this perspective shift transforms problem solving. When you're self-focused and ignore the broader picture, you end up caught in how problems affect your emotions. You waste energy managing your feelings rather than grasping the situation. But if you downplay your own importance and think deeply about how the world ticks, you focus on understanding the factors that cause the problem and the principles that might solve it. This insight often uncovers solutions you'd miss with a narrow viewpoint and helps tone down the emotional weight, making it easier to tackle things calmly and effectively. Building on this perspective is the fifth guideline. Be detached from desire throughout your life. Being detached doesn't mean not wanting anything or ignoring outcomes. It means not letting desires control or define your well-being. When you're tethered to desire, desperation kicks in. This can lead to bad choices because you're more concerned with getting what you want than making wise decisions. Desperation also leaves you open to being manipulated by those promising to fulfill your wants. Detachment helps you pursue goals without being shackled to them. You can deeply want something yet accept that it might not happen. You can strive for goals while staying open to unforeseen alternatives. You can care deeply about results while keeping them from dictating your self-worth or peace of mind. In fact, this detachment can make you more effective in reaching your goals because you're not weighed down by outcome anxiety. Plus, it makes you more resilient when things don't pan out as planned. But perhaps most crucially, detachment lets you act from a place of wisdom instead of being driven by compulsion. When you're hooked on desires, these desires steer your choices even if those choices aren't really good for you. You might be aware that something isn't great for you, but the craving is so strong that you go for it anyway. You might realize a certain plan probably won't pan out, but you chase it regardless, because you're so eager for the payoff it promises. Letting go of this attachment helps you dodge such self-sabotage. It lets you pick actions based on what's likely to work instead of what you wish to happen. The sixth basic principle, which is not feeling regret over what you've done, adds to this base of perspective and letting go. Regret can be one of the most pointless feelings people have. It keeps you fixated on the past, which you can't alter, instead of the future, where you still have some sway. It saps energy that could be spent on doing something productive. It often holds you back from taking necessary chances, because you're scared of adding more things you'll regret later on. Regret locks you in a pattern of mental self-punishment that doesn't really do any good. But sidestepping regret doesn't mean making choices carelessly or ignoring what the past has taught you. It's about making the best call you can with the info and skills available at the moment, then accepting the outcome without beating yourself up. Every choice teaches you something, even if things don't turn out as you'd hoped. These insights are only helpful if you can learn from them without getting bogged down by the regrets of what it took to learn them. With this mindset, you're more open to taking smart risks and better equipped to learn from whatever unfolds. This fosters a positive cycle of better judgment and growing capabilities over time. Together, these three principles lay the groundwork for a mental freedom that makes everything else possible. When you don't take yourself too seriously, you're not weighed down by an inflated sense of self. When you contemplate deeply about the world around you, you gain the understanding you need to act effectively. When you're free from cravings, you're not driven by obsessive urges. When you let go of regret, you're not stuck in the past. This blend fosters a state of clear-headed effectiveness, helping you handle whatever life throws your way in the best possible way. Part 11. The fourth pillar. Emotional sovereignty. Don't ever let jealousy consume you. Don't let a breakup or separation get you down. Grudges and complaints don't do any good for you or others. The 7th, 8th, and 9th rules in Musashi's code focus on emotional dependency, which can be a massive source of human suffering. Many folks hand over their emotional power to situations and other people without even being aware of it. They let what's happening around them dictate how they feel inside. If everything's going their way, they feel great. If not, they're down in the dumps. They look for approval from others to feel good about themselves, but when they don't get it, they feel awful. This reliance on others for emotional validation makes them fragile, erratic, and ultimately less effective. Musashi knew that to be truly strong, you need to maintain control over your emotions no matter what's happening around you. Jealousy is one of the most damaging emotions because it drains your mental energy while accomplishing nothing. If you're envious of someone else's success, relationships, or advantages, you're basically saying that their good luck somehow takes away from your potential. But that's hardly the case. Success usually isn't a zero-sum game. Someone else's wins don't stop you from having your own victories. Their happiness doesn't reduce what's available to you. Their advantages could actually inspire you to work towards similar gains, instead of resenting them for having something you lack. Jealousy can blind you to these options by making you focus on what you don't have instead of what you could create. On the flip side, jealousy can also highlight what you truly value. You become jealous of things you want for yourself. If you're envious of wealth, for instance, it shows that you treasure financial success more than you might admit. If you're jealous of someone's relationships, it reveals your desire for deeper connections in your own life. If recognition stirs up envy, it signals that you want acknowledgement for your contributions. Rather than wallow in these feelings, use them to understand what you genuinely aspire to achieve. Turn jealousy into motivation by shifting from resentment to inspiration. The real question is not why they have what you want, but how you can achieve what they have. Separations are just part of life. People drift apart, relationships end, loved ones pass away, projects wrap up, phases of life come to a close. If you let each of these separations bring you down, you'll end up spending way too much time mourning things that are beyond your control. Musashi wasn't suggesting you should be unemotional or indifferent towards loss. He meant that dwelling on separations can keep you from valuing what you had while it lasted. It might also make it harder to embrace new opportunities and relationships. Every relationship teaches something. Every experience changes you. When you dwell on the sadness of parting, you might miss out on the good things you gained. When someone who matters to you leaves your life, they don't take away the impact they had on you. The growth, insights, and experiences shared become part of your being. In that way, meaningful relationships never truly end. They get woven into your character and skills. Recognizing this helps you honor the past while being open to what lies ahead. Resentment and complaints are some of the biggest ways people waste emotional energy. Holding on to anger from the past that can't be changed is what resentment is all about. Constant complaints are dissatisfaction with the now, without doing anything to make it better. Both draw your attention to what's wrong instead of what you can improve. They create a negative vibe that can spread to others and make teamwork more tricky. They make you see yourself as a victim of situations instead of a person who can create change. But the biggest issue with resentment and complaints is they become habits. The more you focus on what's wrong, the more you'll see things in a negative light. You'll notice problems and unfairness that you might have ignored before, or interpret neutral events negatively. Your go-to mindset turns pessimistic and critical, which doesn't help you see things more clearly or insightfully. You end up being less productive when you spend all your time spotting issues rather than fixing them. Plus, being a constant complainer isn't exactly endearing, making it harder to forge the meaningful connections you need to succeed. Instead of wallowing in resentment and grumbling, take a leaf out of Musashi's book and embrace radical responsibility. That means shifting your attention from what others messed up to what you can handle right. Don't gripe about the cards you've been dealt. Figure out how to play the hand to your advantage. It's about channeling your energy into solutions rather than getting stuck on problems. Think about how this could change your work life. Many folks waste endless hours badmouthing their bosses, colleagues, or the company rules and work conditions. Sure, commiserating can create a temporary bond with others who share your frustrations, but it doesn't really make anything better. The time and effort poured into venting could be better spent on learning new skills, building stronger relationships that make work life better, or even finding a way to a more fitting job. Complaining might feel like you're doing something, but it's only giving the illusion of action without the hard work and risk involved in actually changing things. Being emotionally sovereign doesn't mean turning into a robot. Rather, it's about being able to decide how you react emotionally, instead of letting circumstances call the shots. You can mourn a loss without drowning in sorrow. You can get mad about unfairness but not let that fury control you. You can feel let down by a setback without it paralyzing you. Emotions give us clues and motivation, but you hold the reins on interpreting those clues and deciding what to do next. To get good at emotional sovereignty, start practicing in increasingly tough situations. Begin by noticing when something external triggers an automatic reaction from you. Try to create a moment between that trigger and your response. In that pause, ask yourself if this emotional flare-up fits your bigger goals. If it does, embrace it fully and let it drive fitting action. If not, recognize it and pick a better response. Over time, this gets easier and becomes second nature, helping you keep your emotional balance no matter what's happening. This balance is the groundwork for all your other accomplishments. Part 12. The fifth cornerstone is all about love, choices, and freedom. Don't let lust or love lead your actions. In everything, don't play favorites. These are the 10th and 11th lessons, which delve into one of Musashi's most debated ideas. How can someone truly live without letting love be their guide? How do you make choices without liking one thing more than another? These ideas really clash with what society often tells us. Follow your heart, chase your dreams. But Musashi isn't saying to live without emotions. He's showing a kind of freedom that most people just don't get to feel. It's the freedom to love without love shackling you, and to choose without your choices ruling you. When Musashi talks about not being led by lust or love, he's pointing out how strong feelings can often mess with your head. Love might make you overlook obvious warning signs in a relationship. Lust could tempt you to make choices that mess with your long-term plans just for a quick moment of pleasure. Getting too wrapped up in romance might make you forget your values or drop your responsibilities. These powerful feelings seem like the truth, but they're really a kind of temporary madness that might lead to regrets later on. Musashi saw a lot of talented folks ruin their lives by making big choices while drowning in emotions. However, this doesn't mean you should avoid love or meaningful relationships altogether. It's about keeping a steady mind and sticking to your values, even when emotions are running high. Real love encourages you to grow and shows off your best sides, while fake love wants you to change just to please someone else. When you hold on to your emotional independence, you can enjoy loving relationships without losing who you are. You can care a lot about others without relying on their approval or presence to feel okay. This actually makes you a stronger partner, because you bring completeness to the table instead of neediness or dependence. You love from a place of having plenty to give, not out of feeling like you're lacking. Now, the idea of having no preferences is even harder to grasp. Preferences seem essential for making choices. How do you pick one option over another if you don't prefer one? But Musashi isn't talking about everyday decision-making. He means not clinging to specific outcomes. When you get too attached to things turning out a certain way, you hurt when they don't. But if you're open-handed about how your goals come to life, you can roll with the punches and grab unexpected chances. Having no preferences means being so in tune with your deep values that you can chase them in whatever way presents itself. Think about career growth in this way. Many folks tie themselves to certain job titles, companies, or tracks. When those aren't available, they feel stuck. They might pass on opportunities that don't fit into their vision, even though those paths could lead to something better than they'd planned. Someone who isn't stuck on specific preferences focuses on bigger goals like developing useful skills, making a meaningful impact, earning enough, or working with people they respect. There are lots of ways to reach those goals. Being open to different paths creates opportunities that rigid preferences would miss, and cuts down the stress of being too fixed on certain results. Not having preferences also means accepting whatever life throws at you without wishing it was something else. If you prefer comfort, but life hands you challenges, you can embrace those challenges and find value in them. If you crave recognition but go unnoticed, you can find joy in the work for its own sake. If you strive for success but face failure, you can learn from it and get ready for future triumphs. This kind of flexibility lets you flourish anywhere, rather than depending on certain conditions to do well and feel good. Being practically invincible stems from not allowing outside situations to mess with your ability to find purpose and keep moving forward. One of the most eye-opening parts about having zero preferences is that it helps you spot chances you might miss if you were too hung up on one thing. When you're fixated on one result, you overlook other possibilities that could be way better. But when you're open to various outcomes, you can snag the best chance that pops up at any moment. Pulling this off means you need to trust yourself to add value no matter the circumstances, and have a little bit of faith that life tends to give you what you need, even if it's not exactly what you wanted at first. This trust and belief aren't something you can just fake. They grow organically as you get better at rolling with the punches. The 12th principle, which is not caring about where you live, pushes this idea into the realm of your physical surroundings. Back in Musashi's day, this meant you should be okay whether you're snoozing in a cozy home or sleeping under the stars. These days it's about not relying on specific conditions to do well or feel good. Some people need everything just right to get work done. Perfect climate, best lighting, top-notch gear, and the right vibe. When these conditions aren't met, their productivity takes a nosedive. Such dependencies make them vulnerable and cut down their options. On the other hand, someone who doesn't care much about where they're based can be both effective and happy, no matter where they are. They've built the inner tools to find comfort and concentration, regardless of what's going on around them. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care about living well or settle for bad conditions when better ones are right there. It's about thriving even when things aren't ideal. This kind of adaptability is freeing because it opens up more possibilities and reduces what you rely on. You can consider opportunities that others would skip because everything isn't perfect. You can still get things done amidst shifts and disruptions that trip up folks who need everything perfectly aligned. This flexibility is becoming more crucial in a world where change is pretty much a constant and ideal situations are scarce. All these notions come together to give you inner freedom that doesn't depend on the world around you. When you're not trapped by emotions, not clinging to certain results or reliant on specific conditions, you gain true freedom. It's not about doing whatever you want without repercussions, but rather being able to respond aptly to whatever comes your way. This means you're free to chase your most important values despite any challenges, free to love without the fear of losing it, free to strive without being tied to the end results, free to enjoy comfort but not be needy about it, free to encounter hardship without it crushing you. Such freedom forms the bedrock of all mastery and true happiness. Nobody else can hand it to you, nor can any circumstance take it from you. It's something you nurture through practice and keep with alertness, but once you have it, it reshapes everything in your life. Part 13. The sixth pillar, simplicity and independence. Don't chase after gourmet meals or cling to things you don't really need anymore. The 13th and 14th lessons touch on how our desire for comfort through material things can quietly take over our lives. In today's world, we're constantly tempted to make our lives more complicated with needless luxuries and gadgets. Each new thing seems harmless or even helpful on its own. Tastier food, fancier clothes, comfier furniture, more gadgets, or upgraded gear. But all these extra things together can end up tying us down, taking away our freedom and wearing us out. Musashi knew that keeping life simple isn't about going without. It's actually freeing. The less stuff you need to feel happy and effective, the more doors open up for you. Take food, for instance. What we eat should be about fuel for our bodies, but these days it's turned into a form of entertainment. People pour tons of time, money and energy into seeking out special flavors and dining experiences. They become so hooked on particular dishes, cooking styles or restaurant vibes that if they can't have them, they feel like something's missing, even if perfectly healthy food is available. This kind of dependency can box people in, making it harder to travel, work under new conditions, or adapt when life throws a curveball. Musashi saw food purely as fuel for the body, nothing more. This outlook didn't make him unhappy or feel deprived. Instead, it freed him from the time and energy most people waste on planning their next meal. He ate whatever was available, with no fuss and no letdowns. He avoided the stomach issues others might get from overeating or indulging in rich, complex meals. Most importantly, he avoided letting food become a comfort that might undercut his focus in other areas of life. When you're not reliant on sensory pleasures to be satisfied, you turn to more meaningful sources like achievement, giving back, and growing as a person. This change boosts your overall happiness because these deeper sources of fulfillment stick around longer than the fleeting joy from outside stimuli. The same idea works with possessions. Every single thing you own demands some chunk of your mental or physical energy. You've got to store it, safeguard it, maintain it, and eventually replace it. You need to decide where to keep it and remember where you put it. You have to insure it against loss and fret over its condition. Worst of all, you get attached to your stuff in ways that cramp your ability to be flexible and free. You might find it hard to move somewhere new because you're buried under belongings. You can't take financial risk because of all your expenses. Opportunities requiring sacrifice may pass you by because you're wrapped up in maintaining your current lifestyle. In essence, your stuff starts owning you. Musashi spent much of his life wandering, which meant anything he owned had to be portable or left behind. This necessity gave him clear criteria for his belongings. Does this serve a vital role worthy of its weight? Most things didn't make the cut. He hung onto his swords, some materials for writing, and not much else. This kind of pared-down lifestyle gave him incredible freedom. He could go anywhere without needing to plan every detail extensively. His focus remained steadfast on honing his skills, rather than juggling a mountain of possessions. He could take chances that others couldn't if they were bogged down by too much property. Embracing simplicity wasn't a handicap, it was an advantage, but it takes discipline to maintain. It's natural to gather more stuff over time. What seems handy at one point can become clutter as life shifts. Something useful when first obtained can turn into a burden as priorities shift. Too many people hold on to things just in case, paying for hypothetical future needs with their present freedom. Regularly letting go of things you no longer need keeps both mental and physical space open for new possibilities, stopping stagnation and keeping you nimble. The 15th guideline, don't just follow traditions blindly, gets at a familiar but distinct type of dependency. Most folks stick to social norms and cultural habits simply because that's what's expected, without considering if these traditions actually do them any good. People often act in certain ways just because that's how it's always been done, not because it actually leads to anything meaningful. They go along with societal norms even when these norms clash with what they personally believe or aim for. This kind of unthinking conformity can really hold people back and stops them from finding better ways to live and work. Plus, it makes them easy targets for manipulation by those who know how to exert social pressure. Musashi, who largely lived apart from mainstream society, understood this well. As a Ronin, he was already on the fringes, so he had nothing to lose by questioning the status quo. His outsider's view let him see chances that people entrenched in tradition couldn't. He was able to invent fresh fighting methods because he wasn't boxed in by traditional schools of thought. He could explore various fields because he wasn't stuck in a single profession. He followed his own ethical standards, independent of any need for official validation. Sure, this required guts and self-sufficiency, but it also opened doors to innovative thinking and achievements that blind conformity would have shut. Most breakthroughs come from those daring enough to challenge accepted norms and common wisdom. Still, breaking free from tradition doesn't mean ditching all customs and social standards. Many traditions are around because they've effectively solved problems or met real needs. The trick is to grasp the reasoning behind each tradition and to see if it's still applicable to your life. Some customs are full of wisdom passed down through generations, and ignoring them would be silly. Others are out-of-date solutions to issues that no longer exist, and some are more about benefiting specific groups than really helping everyone. Thinking for yourself means choosing which customs to follow based on your own judgment, rather than just following the crowd. It involves being willing to stand out if that better serves your values and aims. Moving on to the 16th guideline. Don't hoard weapons or train with more weapons than necessary. In today's terms, this is about not piling up knowledge, tools, or skills you won't actually put to good use. Lots of people turn into collectors rather than doers. They gather books they never crack open, tools they never use, and skills they never hone to the point of mastery. Collecting like this can seem like progress, but it's really just spinning your wheels without developing real ability. It scatters your attention and blocks the focused effort needed to truly excel. Musashi zeroed in on perfecting his technique with 2 swords rather than spreading himself thin by learning every weapon he encountered. This focus let him come up with new ideas and insights that a broader but shallower approach wouldn't have allowed. He practiced calligraphy, painting and poetry not as unrelated hobbies, but as interconnected disciplines that deepened his grasp of universal principles. Each activity enriched and strengthened the others, rather than competing for his focus. This kind of integrated learning is way more effective than spreading your efforts thin across unrelated fields. It creates positive feedback loops that speed up growth and lead to those aha moments. Part 14. The 7th pillar, mortality and honor. Don't be scared of death. Though you might leave your physical body behind, you should hold on to your honor. These ideas, found in the 17th and 20th precepts, tackle the big questions everyone has to face. How do you go on living knowing you'll eventually die? When everything material is fleeting, what really matters? What makes life meaningful when all accomplishments are bound to disappear? Musashi's take on these questions came from facing death head-on in countless deadly duels. He realized that accepting death paradoxically allows you to truly live, and he saw that honor is the only thing that endures beyond physical life. Fear of death is often the root of other fears like failing, being rejected, losing something, or facing changes. When you're too scared to die, you might also be too scared to really live. You end up dodging risks that could help you grow, because they might also lead to pain. You opt for safety over seizing opportunities, comfort over facing challenges, and certainty over seeking adventure. This mindset tightens your world until you're merely getting by instead of actually living. You get so caught up in not dying that you forget to truly embrace life. Musashi got that this is a kind of death too, just a slower and more painful one than the physical kind. But staring death in the face doesn't mean being foolish or reckless. It means realizing that no matter how cautiously you try to live, death will come for you anyway. Since you can't stop death from coming, you might as well focus on truly living while you can. This changes your focus from just trying to hold on to what you have, to actually making something meaningful. Instead of wondering, how can I avoid losing, you ask, how can I add value? Instead of thinking, how can I play it safe, you consider, how can I become stronger? Instead of worrying about how long you can live, you shift to how well you can live. This change turns fear into drive and stress into vitality. Musashi faced the reality of death every time he entered a duel. These repeated brushes with mortality gave him an insight few people achieve. He knew life is both fragile and brief, but instead of being scared by this, he became fearless. When you're okay with the idea that you might die today, other risks seem small in comparison. Understanding that your time is short ensures you don't waste it on things that don't really matter. When you grasp that physical things are temporary, you start focusing on what might last beyond your physical self. This clear-eyed view on mortality sharpens your sense of what really matters. Knowing you'll die also frees you from being controlled by social fears. Many actions are driven by the fear of social death, like rejection, embarrassment, failure, or being shunned. But once you've accepted your own death, these social fears lose their grip. You can stick to your values even if they're unpopular. You can chase your dreams even if people disapprove. You can speak the truth even if it's not welcome. You can take needed risks even if there's a chance of failing. This liberation from social anxiety is one of the biggest benefits of embracing mortality. If the body is transient, then what is worth keeping intact? Musashi believed it's honor. He described honor as living by your deepest beliefs, no matter what's happening around you. Honor isn't about following society's rules or meeting what others expect. It's about the alignment between your actions and what you think is right. It's about sticking to your word, standing by what you believe, and having the courage to do so when it's needed. It's about showing respect both to others and to yourself. Honor is the only thing left when all else is stripped away. It's what people remember about you after you're gone. But honor is also something you carry daily. Living honorably means you can look at yourself without shame or regret. You know you're doing your best to live up to your highest understanding of what's right. This brings an inner calm and self-respect that no worldly success can give. It also creates trust with others, as they know you'll act in line with your values. This trust lays the groundwork for meaningful connections and collaborative accomplishments. People tend to work alongside someone they trust, even if they don't particularly like them. However, they won't team up with someone they distrust, no matter how pleasant that person seems. Now, let's dive into Musashi's insights with the 18th and 19th rules he sets out. He advises against clinging to material belongings or lands for old age and suggests showing reverence towards Buddha and other deities without banking on their aid. When you truly embrace the concept of mortality, you stop hoarding things for a future that might never arrive. Instead, you pour your energy into honing skills and forming bonds that bring fulfillment in the here and now. You start valuing your current time and energy, realizing that future needs aren't set in stone and might not matter at all. This perspective doesn't entail neglecting the future altogether or skipping preparation. Rather, it means you don't sacrifice what's meaningful today just to chase after a security that's not assured in the future. It prompts you to invest in things that hold value no matter how long your life might stretch. Skills, friendships, life experiences, and your contributions enhance your life whether your journey is short or long. On the flip side, money and stuff only matter if you live long enough to enjoy them without the burden of ill health. Acknowledging spiritual doctrines without relying on them too much mirrors Musashi's realistic approach to life's enigmas. He recognized the existence of forces beyond human understanding and stayed humble about our limited grasp and control. Yet he didn't let spiritual beliefs justify laziness or recklessness. He wasn't waiting around for divine help when he could take matters into his own hands. This approach strikes a balance between spiritual awareness and grounded accountability. It allows an appreciation for life's mysteries and joys without resorting to helplessness, all while taking ownership of your actions and their outcomes. Part 15. The eighth pillar. The path that never ends. Always stay true to the path. This 21st and last piece of wisdom from the Dokudo sums up everything Musashi grasped about life. But what does the way truly mean? It's not a set of steps or rules that fits everyone. It's not a religious belief or a philosophy you can just memorize and follow like a robot. The way is much more personal and deep. It's your own special expression of the core ideas that lead to living fully and effectively. It's the road that shows up when your actions match with what you truly believe in, what's real and good for you. For Musashi, the way started with the sword. His dedication to learning the art of sword fighting helped him build the discipline, focus and strategy that shaped all his future successes. But as he grew wiser, he saw that the principles behind great swordsmanship could be used in every part of life. Strategy, timing, balance, adaptability, being present and commitment are just as crucial in relationships, art and personal growth as they are in fighting battles. The way of the sword turned into a way of living with mastery and finding purpose. This shift from a specific skill to a universal concept is what true mastery is all about. Your journey might start in business, art, sports, helping others, or any field that draws you in. Where you begin doesn't matter as much as how deeply you engage with it. What matters is that you dive into your chosen field with enough passion and dedication to uncover the principles that drive effective actions. When you really get these principles, you can use them in any part of your life. Your expertise in one area turns into insight that improves everything you do. This is what Musashi meant when he said, from understanding one thing, you can grasp 10,000. But finding your way takes more than just following what you like. It means going into your chosen area like a scientist looking for deep truths, not just for fun or quick answers. You need to challenge common methods and form your own understanding. You strive for excellence rather than being okay with just good enough. You push on through those tough times when progress seems slow or non-existent. Most crucially, you stay open to new ideas that might make you rethink your beliefs and methods. The way reveals itself through practice, not theories, and it unfolds slowly for those fully committing to the journey. You can't learn the way from books or teachers. You prove it only through your own experiences. Once you've found your way, the real challenge is not veering off it. This is harder than it seems. Life will constantly throw distractions, temptations and shortcuts that seem like the fast track to your dreams. People might question your approach and suggest different ways they think are better. You'll hit setbacks that make you doubt if your path is right. You'll face choices between quick wins and long-term growth. Each of these tests how committed you are to your way. Those who pick the long road over quick fixes eventually develop skills that set them apart. Those who swap their way for temporary ease stay average. The difference builds up and becomes noticeable over time. Staying true to your way also means always refining and evolving. The way isn't a place to get to, but a direction to head towards. As you grow in understanding and skill, your expression of the way becomes more elegant and powerful. What seemed like mastery before turns into the starting line for what's next. You must let go of methods that worked in the past but now hold back your growth. Be willing to learn from any source that deepens your understanding. You need to keep confidence in your overall path while staying flexible about specific approaches and techniques. This calls for a rare mix of strong belief and humility that not many can keep. The whole idea of the way isn't just about practical skills. It's got a moral layer too. Being really good at something isn't just about honing skills, but using those skills for something bigger than yourself. When you can influence people and have a say in what happens, you've got the responsibility to use that power wisely. The way calls for using your skills with wisdom, kindness and honesty. This isn't just about being ethical, it's also smart. Using power selfishly ends up backfiring because it brings pushback. But when you use your power for the greater good, it generates teamwork and support, making your efforts more effective. The way pushes you to become powerful enough to make a difference, while staying wise enough to make a positive difference. Importantly, the way gives meaning beyond just personal successes. When you're on your path, you're not just chasing your own goals, but joining in something timeless and universal. You're tapping into and expressing ideas that people have been discovering throughout history. You're adding to humanity's ongoing mission to figure out how to live well, laying the groundwork for future generations to build upon what you've learned. This connection to a bigger picture offers a sense of purpose that makes even the tough times worthwhile. It lets you find satisfaction in the journey, rather than seeking approval or rewards from outside. It turns your personal growth into a way of serving others. Staying true to the way means holding on to this sense of purpose and direction, no matter what's happening around you. When you succeed, you don't get cocky or sit back. Instead, you use those wins to step up your game in serving others. When you hit a wall, you don't give up, but learn from the setback, growing stronger and wiser. If others don't get your approach or even criticize it, you stick to your path while being open to feedback that can help you improve. And when new chances come up, you weigh whether they align with or distract from your main purpose. This consistency builds a life of integrity, where everything you do aligns toward a common goal. Walking the way forever means understanding that mastery is an endless journey, not a final destination. There's always more to grasp, refine, and give back. The aim isn't to settle down somewhere, but to keep moving in the right direction. Every day is a chance to deepen your understanding and get better at what you do. Every challenge turns into an opportunity for growth. Every encounter adds to your knowledge about people and effective action. With this mindset, getting older becomes enriching because your experiences stack up into wisdom. Death takes on meaning because you've left behind something lasting. The way turns temporary life into a lasting impact. This is the ultimate aim of human existence and the peak of real learning. Part 16. The dual sword strategy, blending and harmonizing. In the thick of battle, most warriors put all their strength into wielding one sword with both hands, thinking that more power equaled more skill. But Miyamoto Musashi saw a major flaw in sticking with just one blade. If both hands are clinging to a single sword, you're stuck with one straightforward plan of attack. If your adversary dodges or fends off your move, you've got to reset your stance, leaving yourself open to attack in the meantime. Musashi's groundbreaking idea was to use two swords at once, holding one in each hand. This opened up a load of different strategies. You could strike and guard at the same time. You could strike from all angles at once. You could be flexible enough to handle any situation that popped up without taking a time out to reposition yourself. This tactical shake-up highlighted a much deeper method for handling any tough problem. Musashi's two heavens as one approach, or Niten Ichiryu, wasn't just about fighting tools. It was about building up skills that complement each other, blending together rather than vying for attention. A lot of folks try to get really good at just one thing, hoping it's enough for the road to success. But just like with a single sword, if that strength gets blocked or goes out of style, you're stuck. You end up needing to start from scratch instead of adjusting and using what you already know for new situations. This makes you fragile in an unpredictable, ever-changing world. Musashi's strategy was to hone two different but complementary skills. The katana stood for strength, straightforwardness and decision-making. The wakizashi represented cunning, adaptability, and smart positioning. Together they made a combo more potent than either could manage alone. If one tactic got blocked, the other was there for backup. When one opened a window, the other could seize the moment. These two swords worked as a cohesive unit, not just as two separate pieces. This approach of thinking in systems brings the two-sword principle to modern livelihoods. Take career growth, for instance. Many folks focus on getting the top dog in their area, by only grinding on the technical skills relevant to their field. Engineers cram engineering know-how, salespeople master selling skills, managers dive deep into management. But the real top players in any field nurture skills that enhance their primary talents. They don't lose their technical expertise, they gain extra leverage. An engineer who can also clearly explain ideas to non-engineers has way more doors open than one who only speaks in tech terms. A salesman in touch with psychology and strategy succeeds in ways a tactics-only seller might not. A manager who gets the bigger picture and can work with systems can tackle hurdles that might stop a manager stuck in the everyday nitty-gritty. These complementary skills don't take over technical skills, just supercharge them. The trick with mastering two skills like these is picking ones that strengthen each other, not clash. Just grabbing two random talents won't necessarily gel together well. You have to smartly choose, based on how they work in sync to tackle your challenges. Musashi chose a long sword and short sword, because each addressed different parts of the primary challenge of winning fights. One brought range and strength, while the other added speed and agility. Together, they covered all fighting distances and opponent types. Similarly, your match skills should tackle different parts of your key challenges, giving you alternate routes when your main plan gets blocked and fresh options when things change. But leveling up to two sword capability needs a different training style than just mastering one sword. With one, you can zero in on perfecting that single technique. With two, it's about coordinating multiple actions at once, which Musashi called double awareness. Here you're managing both your main skill and your supporting skill. Both of these skills need to work together seamlessly, without clashing. This kind of coordination takes a lot more time to develop than mastering a single skill, but it ends up giving you a much stronger and more flexible ability. You gain the capacity to deal with complexity and uncertainty that might completely overwhelm someone who only focuses on one skill. The two-sword approach imparts valuable lessons about finding balance and achieving integration. Musashi stressed the importance of having both hands equally skilled. You don't want one hand just to support the other. Both should be developed to a high standard, able to function on their own when needed. This way, you avoid relying too heavily on your stronger skill. It also introduces a backup that protects you from setbacks. If something limits your primary skill temporarily, your secondary skill can step up while the primary one recovers. This kind of resilience is vital for long-term success in any challenging field. But maybe the mindset created by this two-sword philosophy is its most significant aspect. When you only have one method for handling a challenge, you're likely to try and make it fit even if it's not the best match for the situation. With two well-honed strategies, you can pick the one that best fits each specific case. This flexibility makes you far more effective, because you're always choosing the right tool for the task. It also sparks creativity, as you can blend elements from both strategies to come up with new solutions. Often, innovation arises from combining existing abilities in fresh ways, rather than creating entirely new ones. The two-sword mindset extends beyond just personal growth to encompass organizational and strategic planning. Companies reliant on a single product or market face similar vulnerabilities to that of fighters using only one sword. Organizations cultivating strengths in various areas can adjust better to new conditions. Leaders who can think not only strategically but also tactically, both through analysis and intuition, individually as well as systemically, will find themselves with a broader array of options in any situation. This principle applies universally, regardless of the level at which it's used. Having multiple complementary skills offers more options, greater resilience, and superior effectiveness compared to excelling at just one skill. However, following the two-sword approach requires patience and discipline to be successful. Developing two skills takes more time than just focusing on one. It calls for sustained attention to building complementary skills, rather than chasing the newest trends or immediate opportunities. It means resisting the urge to give up on one skill when progress becomes tough or less rewarding. The benefits become evident only after both skills reach a competent level and begin operating as a cohesive system. This kind of delayed payoff is tough in a society that treasures quick outcomes and rapid feedback. Yet the long-term benefits of embracing the two-sword approach make it worth the effort for anyone dedicated to achieving lasting excellence. This philosophy elevates you from merely having skills to embodying true capability. Part 17. In both fighting and everyday life, it's crucial to be strong-minded but calm. Face what's ahead without being tense, yet not hastily, with your spirit steady but unbiased. Musashi talks about a mindset few ever reach, yet it's the ultimate aim of all training. Natural action kicks in when you're so skilled you no longer have to think about what you're doing. You react to situations instinctively and just right without needing to calculate or deliberate consciously. Your responses come naturally from your grasp of the situation and your mastered principles. This isn't about reacting on autopilot. It's about smart responses that seem easy because your skill is so solid. Most folks either overthink and get stuck, or react too quickly without thinking things through. Overthinking causes stress and delays, while rash actions can lead to bad choices since they often ignore key factors and consequences. Natural action outshines these pitfalls by melding thinking and doing into one fluid motion. You see, understand, and act as one seamless process instead of in separate steps. This lets you be both thoughtful and prompt, careful but decisive. It's like acting on intuition, backed by solid, deep-seated knowledge. Consider experts in any field. Take a top-notch surgeon. They don't consciously think over each move during intricate surgeries. Their endless training has woven the necessary skills and knowledge seamlessly together, so they can zero in on the unique parts of each surgery while their seasoned skills kick in automatically. Same with a master musician. They're not thinking about where to place their fingers or how to breathe while playing. They've got those moves down so well that they can focus entirely on the music and reacting to their fellow performers. The same rule applies in any field where true expertise is achieved. Technical skills lay the groundwork for artistic or strategic creativity, not as the end goals but as stepping stones. Yet this natural way of acting isn't just for specialized skills. It can be honed in areas like communication, decision-making or problem-solving, which everyone uses. When you've really absorbed effective communication, you can handle any conversation easily, without sticking to set scripts or formulas. You just know what the other person needs to hear, and how they need to hear it. You shape your message to fit their situation and mood. You tweak your approach to be most effective, instead of just sticking with what you prefer. Responsive communication leads to way better results than just mechanically applying a technique or reacting purely emotionally. It lets you stay true to yourself while being effective and strategic with others. To develop natural action, you need what Musashi called no mind or void consciousness. It's not about clearing your mind but achieving a state where your knowledge and skills work without you having to actively think about them. Your training builds a competence where routine parts run automatically, freeing you up to deal with new unique challenges. Rather than wasting mental energy remembering techniques or worrying about getting it right, you can fully focus on understanding what's happening and choosing the best action. Splitting the workload between unconscious skill and conscious awareness boosts your effectiveness big time. But to reach this state of natural action, you can't skip ahead. You first need to learn the techniques consciously, practice them intentionally, and refine them carefully. Only once they're second nature can they become part of your unconscious skill set. Getting good at something usually takes way longer than most folks think, and it involves a ton more repeating than you might feel is necessary. You gotta keep on with the basics, even when they seem super dull or obvious. It's important to resist rushing into the fancy stuff before those fundamental skills feel completely second nature. This kind of patience during the learning phase is what sets apart those who make their actions feel natural from those who get stuck constantly thinking about every move. Musashi also talked about finding the right distance for each situation, whether it's about being close enough in a fight, maintaining the right emotional space in a relationship, timing things well in planning, or making wise strategic choices. Having the right distance means you're close enough to make an impact, but far enough to keep a clear head. It's about being invested in how things turn out, but also stepping back enough to see the bigger picture. You need to be alert to what's happening now, but not be swept away by it all. Most people either get way too caught up and lose their perspective, or stay too aloof and become ineffective. Natural action is about hitting that sweet spot for each scenario and tweaking your position as things shift. This calls for constantly adjusting your approach as new stuff comes up, rather than sticking rigidly to a set plan. Getting to a place of natural action also means bringing together qualities that some might see as opposites. You've got to be focused but still relaxed, reactive yet unbiased, involved but able to step back, sure of yourself but still humble. These seemingly clashing traits work together in natural action, because each one plays a role in reacting just right. Determination is the fuel and focus needed to get things done well. Being calm is what helps you see clearly and think straight. Flexibility allows you to adjust as things change. Staying unbiased keeps your views clear and free from your own quirks or hopes. It's not about picking one trait over the other. It's about weaving them all together for a smooth response. And maybe the biggest thing, natural action means fully accepting that nothing is certain or permanent. You can't map everything out ahead of time, nor can you control every little detail. Things switch up faster than you can usually figure them out. New details often mean you've got to rethink your previous ideas. It's about rolling with this uncertainty, rather than trying to stamp it out. You build enough skill to handle whatever happens without needing to know beforehand what's coming your way. This requires shifting your focus from trying to control situations to developing the skill to handle any scenario well. When this shift happens, uncertainty becomes a chance rather than something to fear, and change turns into a source of energy instead of a disruption. Part 18. The complete integration, pen and sword. Within the Warriors, it talks about the dual pathway of mastering both intellectual and physical realms. Musashi teaches something profound here. To be fully developed, one should be skilled with both pen and sword, signifying mind and body. People often think that the mind and body are separate worlds needing different strategies and purposes. For instance, scholars often focus on mental prowess and ignore their physical side. Athletes build their physical strength, but pay little attention to intellectual growth. Warriors might be great fighters, but often overlook artistic pursuits, while artists hone their creativity, but shy away from the physical tasks. This type of compartmentalization leads to people who are strong in some areas but weak in others. Musashi understood that to truly master anything, one must combine all aspects of human potential into one unified being. For either to reach its peak potential, the pen and sword must be handled by the same person. The pen is all about being thoughtful, creative and reflective. Activities like writing, reading, planning, and expressing ideas. These actions help you understand complex concepts, communicate effectively, and draw meaning from experiences. They enhance your awareness, broaden your viewpoint, and link you to the wisdom amassed over time. Without reflection that the pen provides, even the most eye-opening experiences go unprocessed and lose their value. You might keep making the same errors because you've never really understood what went wrong. Similarly, you might not capitalize on what worked well because you never pinpointed the factors behind your success. Experience without the lessons of reflection only serves to add years, not wisdom. On the flip side, the sword is all about action, embracing things that are physical and immediate. Training, practice, taking risks, performing, and facing challenges with real stakes. These acts bolster your courage, discipline, resilience, and ability to operate under pressure. They push you to bridge the gap between theory and real-world application, revealing what ideas actually work versus those that just sound good on paper. This builds a confidence grounded in proven ability, not just untested theories. A sophisticated concept without being tested in action remains an idea with no tangible effect. You might be great at discussing theories you haven't tried, or develop viewpoints on practices you've never engaged in. Knowledge without use is simply a form of entertaining education. It makes you knowledgeable, but not effective, and gives a false sense of understanding without actual skill. Musashi discovered something incredible. Both pen and sword aren't just sides of the same coin. They enhance one another when nurtured in the same individual. Mental qualities like persistence, discipline and stress management are honed by stretching physical limits, while understanding complex patterns, strategic thinking and effective communication come from intellectual efforts. When one person cultivates both sets of skills, they enhance each other, leading to performances much greater than either alone could produce. A disciplined body helps sharpen and toughen the mind, and a cultivated mind makes physical efforts smarter and more productive. They together create someone who can both comprehend what is necessary and take the necessary action. Look around and you'll see this integrated mastery shines in various fields. The most forward-thinking scientists don't just think analytically. They roll up their sleeves and experiment, directly testing their ideas. Successful entrepreneurs marry visionary planning with getting directly involved in their businesses. They don't just draft business plans but also engage directly with customers and products. Influential teachers mix deep subject knowledge with hands-on teaching skills. They've got the knack for making complex stuff easy to grasp and can tailor their teaching to fit students with all sorts of learning styles and backgrounds. It's across all fields. Those who reach the top know how to blend thinking and doing instead of picking one over the other. But this blending takes a different kind of growth than most folks are used to. Rather than focusing narrowly on either brainy stuff or physical talents, you've got to keep nurturing both sides throughout your life. This means keeping up with reading and writing, while also staying in shape and sharpening your hands-on skills. It's about diving into new ideas and theories and then testing them out in real-life scenarios. It's about soaking up wisdom from books and teachers, but also learning from your own trials and errors. It means having the patience for slow, steady intellectual growth, while also diving head first into physical feats that need quick action. Balancing like this takes more time than becoming a laser-focused specialist, and it requires a lot more willpower. But in the end, it builds skills you just can't get any other way. Musashi's whole life was a testament to this kind of integration. He wasn't just an unbeatable swordsman. He was also a talented painter, calligrapher, sculptor, and poet. These arts weren't just side gigs for him. They were all tied together with the same core ideas. The grace, timing, and precision he needed to be a skilled sword fighter were the same qualities needed for top-notch calligraphy. The strategic thinking required to win a duel was the same as what was needed to create moving poetry. The discipline he honed in martial training was key in mastering the arts too. By exploring these different avenues, Musashi dug deeper into the very fundamentals that drove him. Each area taught him lessons that made him better in all the others. This fusion also reshapes how you take on failure and success, different from most people's experiences. When your growth is all in one bucket, a stumble can feel catastrophic because everything you are depends on that one area. But when you're spread out across multiple areas, a setback is just a step in the learning process, making you stronger in other ways. The grit you build from physical challenges helps you power through mental ones. The critical thinking from your studies helps you diagnose why a physical move might fall flat. The creativity from the art sparks new ways to solve everyday issues. This cross-training makes you tougher and more inventive than someone who's only ever focused on one thing. Plus, it makes life way more intriguing because your curiosity and passion can roam across different experiences. Most importantly, blending brain power and brawn creates a person who can connect different worlds and translate between diverse perspectives. You can chat with thinkers and doers alike because you've been in both their shoes. You spot links between concepts and real-world applications that others miss. You can bridge the gap between theory and practice, helping turn ideas into action and actions into new insights. This bridging role is crucial now more than ever, in a world where specialization keeps people in narrow lanes, stopping them from working effectively together. Organizations crave folks who can both plan big and get stuff done. Society needs those who can wrap their heads around complicated issues and put practical solutions into play. Blending pen and sword makes you ready to fill this vital role. Part 19. The beat of mastery. In the world of dance and playing music, whether with pipes or strings, timing is everything. It's what keeps the rhythm alive and flowing. The same holds true in fields like the military, where timing is crucial for archery, shooting, and horseback riding. Timing plays a role in just about every skill you can think of. Musashi's wisdom highlights what many overlook about achieving true mastery. It's not just about honing individual skills, but about syncing those skills with impeccable timing. You might have all the right moves, yet if you execute them at the wrong time or in the wrong order, it could all fall apart. On the flip side, even with average skills, if the timing is spot on, you can accomplish things that even the best abilities can't when their timing is off. Becoming in tune with rhythm and timing is what takes someone from being just good to being a true master. A lot of folks only think about timing when deciding when to act, be it to speak up in a meeting, launch a new product, switch careers, or dive into a tough conversation. But Musashi saw timing as more than that. It works on many planes at the same time. There's not just the timing of one action after another, but the timing of a whole series of actions within a broader plan, plus the timing of those plans in the context of the bigger picture. To reach master-level performance, you need to be aware of all these levels. You have to pick up on the immediate beat of the moment, while also sensing the broader rhythm of the situation and environment. This layered awareness helps you align your actions with forces greater than yourself. When you hit that sweet spot, your efforts no longer encounter pushback, but work in harmony, boosting their impact. Think about how this applies to how we communicate and persuade others. A message can have a vastly different impact depending on when it's delivered. Information that's well received when someone is ready for it may be rejected if they're not. Advice that's valuable at one stage in a person's growth might become useless, or even detrimental, at another. Arguments that are persuasive when someone is open and attentive can fall flat when they're feeling defensive or preoccupied. Experienced communicators tune into these shifts in openness and readiness. They can tell when someone is ready to consider new ideas and when they need to sit with what they already know. They know when to press on and when to wait for a better moment. This awareness makes them more impactful than those who deliver their messages round the clock, ignoring timing. They work with the rhythms of human nature instead of pushing against them. This principle applies just as well to personal growth and mastering new skills. Learning follows its natural cycles and can't be rushed beyond certain bounds. Busy times of focused practice need to be tempered with intervals of rest and reflection. Moments spent pushing past comfort zones should be paired with times to cement what's been learned. Phases of gathering new info should be offset by phases of applying it. Many people derail their progress by ignoring these rhythms, trying to keep up a constant pace, often leading to burnout both physically and mentally because they haven't allowed themselves time to recover and digest what they've learned. They miss those moments of clarity that surface in quieter periods where the mind knits together the pieces from active learning times. Timing in business and professional circles works on even longer timelines that many don't notice. Every industry has its rhythms of growth and settling, bursts of innovation and periods of refining, times of expansion and moments of pulling back. Every market rides waves of optimism and pessimism, leaps of daring and hesitance, and times of plenty and shortage. Every organization moves through cycles of change and steadiness, urgency and calm, action and strategic planning. Grasping these broader rhythms allows you to align your efforts with the tides, rather than struggle against them. You can plan significant moves for times when the environment is open to change. Prepare for harder times when the going is good, and be ready for the upturn when things are down. Spot when trends are cresting, and be ready for what follows. The ability to consistently make smart, strategic choices comes down to having a good sense of timing, rather than just sheer luck. For those who seem to have bad luck, it often boils down to missing this knack for timing. However, honing this skill involves a different kind of focus than what most people are used to. Instead of just zeroing in on your own to-do list and plans, you need to stay alert to the bigger picture around you. It's about being aware of patterns and cycles that stretch over months and years, not merely days or weeks. It's also about picking up on the little hints that signal shifts in mood and changes in circumstances. You have to resist imposing your preferred schedule on realities that have their own natural timing. This demands patience and the readiness to wait for the right moment, even when you feel geared up to go. Conversely, you need to spring into action when the timing feels ripe, even if you're feeling a bit underprepared. Most folks tend to do the exact reverse. They hesitate when they should jump in and push forward when they should hold back. Musashi's approach to timing relied on what he referred to as knowing the rhythm of any scenario. This involves being in tune with the natural progression of events and identifying the perfect moments for various actions. Every situation has its own distinct rhythm, shaped by the people involved, the stakes at hand, the environmental factors, and the historical backdrop. You can't just cling to preset formulas or lean solely on past experiences. You have to cultivate the skill to read the present situation as it unfolds and feel out its specific rhythm. It's more of an art form than a scientific process, more about intuition than cold analysis. It demands a kind of presence and awareness that can only be honed through extensive hands-on experience with challenging scenarios. Books and simulations won't cut it. You need to face real risks and real outcomes time and again. Arguably, the most crucial part of mastering timing is learning to trust your gut instinct about rhythm, even when you can't explain it logically. Often, the ideal moment to act shows up before you've gathered all the facts you'd like to have. Sometimes you need to go for it based on faint signs you recognize but can't quite put into words. Situational rhythms can change quicker than your conscious mind can analyze. In these instances, your ingrained sense of timing has to steer your actions. This means building confidence in your gut feelings by constantly checking them against real-world outcomes. When your timing hits the mark, pay attention to what signals triggered your response. When you misjudge timing, take a closer look at the cues you overlooked or misunderstood. Over time, this continuous feedback loop sharpens your timing sense until it becomes dependably accurate, even in brand new situations. Having this intuitive timing skill enables experts to perform at their peak, especially when they're under pressure and don't have the time to do deep analysis. Part 20. The legacy of the void going beyond just techniques. In the concept of the void, there's virtue with no shadows. Wisdom's alive in it. So are principles in the path. Spirit, though, is like an empty space. Musashi's ending thoughts in his Book of Five Rings hint at where all learning leads in the enigma of human life itself. The void isn't about being empty like there's nothing there, but more about being complete, not needing anything extra. It's when everything you've learned and practiced becomes second nature, working without you having to think about it. You just act, without pondering each move, becoming a living testament to your knowledge. This is when skill evolves into instinct, when knowledge changes into pure wisdom, and when practice transforms into pure artistry. That's what anyone seriously devoted to their craft aims for, even if they don't know it. It's reaching a point where you're not just using your skills, but you actually become them. Most folks never make it to this void because they cling to their methods, their rules, and their lessons. They keep piling on more info, mastering more skills, gathering more experience, holding tight to the training wheels that got them started. They depend on consciously controlling and sticking to set rules and planned strategies. But this dependency slows them down because thinking your way through isn't quick enough when things are changing fast. It also holds back creativity because pre-planned strategies simply don't work for new and unexpected challenges. Entering the void means you've got to drop this need for control and truly trust that your training has built something deeper than just knowledge you're aware of. This letting go intimidates many, since it means giving up the idea that we're steering the ship. However, entering the void doesn't mean tossing away techniques and knowledge. It's actually the culmination of them. You don't get to the void by sidestepping the learning and understanding phases. These steps are crucial. They build the base you need. But at some point, these bases have to fade into the background so what rests on them can act freely. Imagine a top-notch pianist. They don't think about what their fingers are doing or need to recall the rules of music theory during a performance. That knowledge is there, sure, running in the background, but it doesn't break the flow of their music making, which is what they're really there to do. The skills are like thin air. It's what lets something greater take form. Musashi implied this when he spoke of spirit being nothingness. He didn't mean spirit doesn't exist. It's just that it can't be pinned down and manipulated. It comes forward when everything else is set right and given room to flow. It's that silence between your thoughts, the spaces between your breaths, the gap between making a decision and acting on it. Living in the void means your actions and decisions come from a place of deep understanding, rather than calculated choices or spur-of-the-moment feelings. Your actions fit each situation perfectly, because they roll out from wisdom, not just technique. It's not about sticking to rules but living out principles. Not about using methods but showing what you truly understand. Not chasing after specific results but embracing the reason for your actions. Shifting from just doing to actually being changes how you interact with life. Instead of trying to micromanage outcomes, you grow the traits that naturally lead to good endings. Rather than tweaking situations to your liking, you find harmony with the forces influencing them. You don't just bulldoze your way through. You listen, realize what's needed, and provide that. This approach tends to work better than brute force and feels more fulfilling than the trying to control every little detail. The void also symbolizes being free from craving recognition or approval from others. When you live from the void, your actions are guided by your own inner sense, not what the outside world expects from you. You act because you know it's right, not because someone's watching or rewarding you. This builds a firm integrity and honesty in you that others can see right away. People trust those who operate from the void because they sense these actions stem from something deeper than just looking out for number one or bowing to peer pressure. People might not grasp exactly what guides someone's actions, but they can still sense when it's trustworthy and kind-hearted. It's this kind of trust that lays the groundwork for real leadership and influence. You can't fake it or manipulate it. It has to be genuinely earned by consistently showing wise judgment. One of the most crucial aspects of this void is that it lets you serve a purpose bigger than yourself without getting lost in the process. When you operate from this space, your personal goals and the broader good naturally line up. The things that foster your deepest growth also end up aiding others. What comes from your most profound insights contributes to collective wisdom, and as you unlock your unique strengths, you bring something valuable to the world. This balance wipes out the common struggle between self-interest and serving others that so many people face. You can chase your own personal growth and fulfillment while also helping out the people around you. Merging personal and communal goals like this makes life deeply meaningful. The void is also a hotbed for new ideas and creativity. Without being tied down to traditional techniques or established methods, you start to approach each challenge with fresh eyes and innovative solutions. Instead of your skills and know-how being limitations, they turn into building blocks for new ideas. You start seeing possibilities that people who are stuck in standard ways of thinking might miss. You can connect the dots between seemingly unrelated things in ways others might not even consider. Where others might see dead ends, you see solutions because you're free from their limiting beliefs. This creative power is what helps some people make huge leaps forward, while others remain stuck making tiny improvements. It's not a matter of IQ or knowledge, but about being freed from clinging to old ways. Getting to this void involves a weird mix of pushing yourself hard and completely letting go. You need to train seriously and study deeply to set the stage for accessing this void, but you also have to be able to release your grip on the outcomes of all that effort. You work tirelessly to hone your skills but stay detached from identifying too closely with them. You care a lot about how you perform, yet stay cool about getting any applause for it. You're fully committed to growing, while also realizing that the end goal is to go beyond any need for growth. Conquering this paradox isn't something you can figure out by thinking it through. You have to experience it. Reaching the void isn't a place you arrive at and stay forever. It's a skill you develop, a state of being you can tap into when it's necessary. There will still be moments when you need to rely on traditional methods like careful planning and logical analysis. The void doesn't replace these skills, but it becomes another tool you can use when things are too complicated, new, or changing too fast for the usual ways to work. It's also the mindset you enter to perform at your peak, be it in competition, teamwork, or creating something new. Having this access to the void turns you into someone who can handle any challenge and add value to any situation. It makes you beneficial to others and also deeply satisfies you. This is the pinnacle of Musashi's teachings and the ultimate human achievement. It's available to anyone willing to fully commit to the path.